No one is telling you this, but there's one single verse that unlocks the entire understanding of the rapture, and almost no one talks about it. Not because it's hidden, not because it's hard to understand, but because it's too simple, too direct, too uncomfortable. And maybe that's exactly why even those who preach about the end times every Sunday tend to overlook it. But this verse is the key that unlocks the rapture. Have you noticed how we're flooded with videos, theories, and predictions about the end? Hours and hours of content, but what truly releases the purest understanding of the rapture is in just one sentence Jesus spoke. One phrase, one image, one scene so real it gives you chills. And the scariest part? It's already unfolding before our eyes. Yes, this one verse unlocks the rapture, but almost no one realizes what it's really saying. Here's the hard truth. Most people are waiting for something grand, when in reality, what's coming will be silent, sudden, and deeply personal. There won't be sirens or a public list of who made it. Just two people, and one disappears. And if you think this verse is about believers versus the world, you're dead wrong. The real separation will happen between people who look the same, side by side, one taken, the other left behind. This one verse reveals everything. But who has the courage to face it head on? If you want to discover why this verse is the most ignored, yet the most important verse about the rapture, then get ready. Because what we're about to reveal may challenge everything you've believed. But first, like this video, share it with someone who urgently needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel, because here we go deep, straight into the word, no spiritual sugarcoating. Now take a deep breath, and let's begin. While many expect the rapture to look like a Hollywood spectacle, Jesus described something completely different and far deeper. In Luke 17:34-35 and Matthew 24:40-42, he spoke of people doing ordinary things, sleeping, working in the field, going about their routines. There are no roaring trumpets in the streets, no skies visibly tearing open. It's as if the most important moment in human history will be disguised in the fabric of normal life. And that's exactly where the danger lies. Routine numbs vigilance. Picture a couple going to bed as they always do. One of them wakes up, the other is gone. Or two friends harvesting fruit in the field. One turns to speak, and there's only emptiness. It's a heartbreaking image because it reveals something brutally real. The separation will happen between people who share the same roof, the same meals, perhaps even the same apparent faith. Jesus didn't paint a chaotic scene, but a daily one, and that changes everything. It's easy to stay alert when everything seems out of place. It's much harder to keep the fire burning when everything seems normal. The hidden message in this passage is a subtle yet powerful warning. The rapture won't knock on your door. It won't send you an email invitation with the date and time. It'll happen on a regular Monday, maybe while you're stuck in traffic, making coffee, or paying bills. That's why to watch means to live with spiritual eyes open in any situation. A practical example: start your day with sincere prayer, not automatic words, like having a true, intimate conversation with God, not reading a heavenly script. What's most unsettling is realizing that this separation will be invisible until it becomes irreversible. People who walked side by side, but were never truly united in spirit, friends, family members, co-workers, all seemingly on the same path, but headed for entirely different destinations. And that raises a painful, yet necessary question. Are we truly ready, or just familiar? Because the rapture won't wait for those still getting ready. And if that idea feels heavy, wait until you see what comes next. There won't be a countdown. No alerts will sound from the heavens saying 10 minutes until the rapture. The separation Jesus described is sudden, silent, and devastatingly final. One will be taken, the other left. Just like that. No explanations, no time to react. It's as if the world keeps spinning normally, while spiritual realities are instantly transformed into eternity. The most important moment of your existence might happen in the quiet of a single breath. This image directly echoes 1 Corinthians 15:52, where Paul says it will happen in the twinkling of an eye. Think about that. You blink, and everything changes. Faster than sound, swifter than a lightning strike. No extra time, no second chances. That sermon you said you'd listen to later, gone. That apology you kept postponing, that decision you kept delaying, all of it turns to dust. The separation is a line drawn in a moment with no warning. What determines who's taken? It's not the Sunday suit or how many verses you've memorized. It's something invisible to human eyes, yet clear before God. Spiritual discernment and inner readiness. It's the state of the heart, not the number of religious activities. Someone might be serving flawlessly at church, yet be spiritually empty, while another, quiet in the back row, has a heart burning for God. The selection is made by the Spirit, not by spiritual resumes. So, if it's all so sudden, how can we be ready? Here's the key. Preparation must be constant, like someone living with their suitcase packed. Simple habits go a long way. Setting aside daily time to hear God's voice, meditating on Scripture with real hunger, adjusting hidden attitudes like pride, envy, or spiritual coldness. Because in the end, what matters isn't what people see, it's what heaven recognizes. And that difference could be hidden even between two people sitting on the same church pew. It's easy to look at two people in church and think, they must be on the same spiritual level. But the Bible shatters that illusion with surgical precision. The scene Jesus described shows two people side by side. One is taken, the other left. Both in the same place, doing the same thing, the same environment, the same routine, but eternally opposite destinies. It reveals a shocking truth. Spiritual appearance can be very deceiving. Many people confuse activity with intimacy. Just because someone is leading worship, preaching, or serving in kids' ministry doesn't mean they're spiritually prepared. The real difference lies in the oil, that internal reserve of faith, surrender, and vigilance. Remember the 10 virgins. They all looked ready, but only half had enough oil. Same appearance, same weight, but only some entered. That shows us God isn't impressed by performance, but by depth. That's why so many will be caught off guard. Being involved in church, praying before meals, or posting verses on social media doesn't guarantee readiness. What matters is the secret condition of the soul. And that spiritual oil can't be bought at the last minute. It's cultivated day by day. When you choose to forgive, when you pray, even without feeling like it, when you obey in silence. In those moments, God sees the heart, not the theater. And maybe the scariest part of it all is realizing that the separation has already begun, invisibly. A spiritual line is being drawn between those who have oil and those who live on appearance. And while many are still spiritually asleep, thinking everything is fine, the difference is already being made in heaven. And in the next moment, when God's clock sounds, it may be too late to search for that missing oil. After clearly describing the rapture scenario, Jesus ends with a word that isn't a suggestion. but a command. Watch. It's not a light recommendation, nor something optional. It's as if he's saying, if you understood everything I just said, then stay alert. Time is short. Watchfulness here isn't about living in fear, but about living with spiritual awareness. It's living each day as if it's your last, before the trumpet sounds. And for that, it's not enough to know the prophecies. You must respond to them with positioning. Watchfulness is a lifestyle, not a weekend event. To watch is far more than avoiding scandalous sins. It's keeping your heart connected to heaven while walking through the world. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking vigilance means just stopping sinful behavior. But biblical vigilance goes deeper. It's about nourishing daily communion with God, even in life's pressures. That means cultivating the Spirit even when things feel routine. A great example: make your spiritual life come alive. Read the Bible with real questions in your heart, not just out of duty. Fast not to bargain with God, but to break inner pride. Who doesn't watch will eventually fall asleep. And spiritual sleep is dangerous because it's silent. A person can keep singing, preaching, serving, but inwardly, the connection has been cut. It's like a phone that looks powered on but has no signal. That's why Jesus insists, watch. It's a warning not to be distracted by distractions. Small things like excessive entertainment, constant comparison on social media, or non-stop busyness can numb your spirit. And when the spirit is numb, the rapture comes like a thief in the night. Watchfulness is a discipline of awareness, attentiveness, and spiritual presence. It means being tuned in to what God is saying today, right now, and not confusing noise with the presence of God. Many are addicted to the spectacle, lights, stages, impressive voices, but have lost sensitivity to the Spirit's whisper. Can you hear God in the silence? Can you perceive His warning in the midst of your routine? Because those who watch in the secret place will hear first, and those who hear first prepare quietly, while others are still distracted by what's on the outside. But what if that silence is exactly what defines who's ready? The verse that says, "One will be taken, the other left," is, strangely enough, one of the most impactful, and yet one of the least preached. And the reason is simple. It doesn't deliver the spectacle many are looking for. It's direct, silent, almost uncomfortable. No earthquakes, no beasts of the apocalypse, no horses of judgment, just ordinary people, living their routines, being separated without warning. It's a verse that confronts without filters the superficiality of modern faith. That's why many prefer to talk about blessings, miracles, and visible victories. A rapture without noise doesn't draw crowds, it demands preparation. Pop Christianity prefers verses that draw applause, not the ones that bring silence to the soul. And this text from Jesus makes us stop, think, and look inward. It dismantles the idea that just being around Christians is enough, and that makes people uncomfortable. That's why this passage is often mentioned briefly or only used as an intro to more pleasant topics. But it carries one of the sharpest truths in all biblical prophecy. Judgment starts with the heart, not with the surroundings. And that's terrifying, because it shatters religious comfort and demands real transformation. This kind of message doesn't fit in shallow theology, where everything is cheap grace and no personal responsibility is required. It separates living faith from institutional religion. It forces believers to ask hard questions. Am I the one left behind? Does my inner life match what I show on the outside? It's easier to switch churches than to face these questions. Easier to fake intimacy with God than to seek it genuinely. But this separation won't be based on appearance, charisma, or influence. It'll be based on essence, on truth, and on purity before God. And maybe that's why the silence around this verse is so deafening, because it calls us to personal responsibility, without excuses, without blaming others. It stops us from pointing fingers and forces us to look in the mirror of our souls. One will be taken. And you? Are you ready? Are you watchful? Or are you just too busy to realize that heaven is already separating its own in secret? What comes next will make that even clearer. When Paul speaks about the last trumpet in 1 Corinthians 15:52, he's not describing a spectacle for the world to see, but a spiritual call, a sound only the prepared will hear. It's like a heavenly frequency that doesn't echo in natural ears, but vibrates in the spirit of those aligned with heaven. This trumpet isn't meant to scare, it's meant to seal. It marks the end of a waiting period and the beginning of eternal communion with God. And when it sounds, there'll be no room for last-minute adjustments. Either you were already ready or you weren't. The big question is, who will actually hear this trumpet? Not the loud religious types, nor those who depend on emotional hype to feel close to God. It'll be those who cultivated intimacy, those who tuned their hearts to heaven's voice. You know that simple person no one really notices, but who lives on their knees and has a heart sensitive to the Spirit. That's the one who will hear the sound that changes everything. And it doesn't matter the title, position, or spiritual fame. What counts is inner alignment. Those who haven't developed that sensitivity will hear nothing, just the silence of absence. This trumpet is the final punctuation in a story written with faith, tears, perseverance, and surrender. And interestingly, it won't be heard by those who merely hear about God, but by those who walk with Him. It's like a father calling his child by name, and the child instantly knows that voice. It challenges us to revisit our priorities. How often are we more tuned in to news, social media, and entertainment than to the voice of God? It's not a sin to be informed or enjoy life, but it's dangerous when these things disconnect us from what's eternal. And time is running out. Because in the end, the rapture won't be a collective event based on external standards, but an individual and intimate calling. Heaven's clock doesn't delay. It's counting the seconds to that final sound. And while many wait for some dramatic manifestation, heaven is preparing a quiet, selective invitation. The world will keep spinning. People will go on with their routines. But in the unseen, a people will be taken from this earth. And the question that must burn in our hearts is, will our spirit recognize that sound? Or will we be too distracted by the world's noise? The image Jesus painted is not symbolic. It's literal, urgent, and often ignored. The rapture won't happen based on appearances, titles, or how many Bible verses you post on social media. It will be individual. It will be intimate. It will be between you and God. And when it happens, there will be no time to go after the oil. So the question that echoes now is, are you truly ready, or just looking like someone who is? Think about it. How many times have you stood side by side with someone, in church, in prayer, serving, and assumed that automatically placed you among those who will be taken? But what about your heart, your watchfulness? The separation has already begun in the spiritual realm, and only those tuned to heaven's frequency will hear the trumpet. Do you have enough oil? Are you truly vigilant, or just keeping up appearances? We can't live on autopilot anymore. This message isn't meant to scare, it's meant to awaken. Because if you've come this far,